Hi, this is Leah, Salmon, the Naturally You Coach, and today I wanted to share with you a quick video on 3 overlooked but natural ways that you can improve your child's behavior. You probably, if you've read my book, Growing Whole Food Children, that's being revised right now, or you've heard me speak on children, generally children's behavior, children's nutrition, these types of things, you'll probably know that I am of the opinion that children are not just badly behaved. You don't just get a badly behaved child. There's normally, in the same way that adults can be miserable blighters at times, as children can experience different challenges that make their behavior more challenging. And instead of just labeling them a badly behaved child, it's almost critical, in my opinion, it's critical that you do some assessing of your child's behavior before you label children, because that is something that's an epidemic in society, is just labeling people, things, and then sometimes even medicating children for the labels that they've been given, as opposed to working out what is it that actually caused that behavior, what is it that's causing those symptoms. And let's address those as opposed to just looking at the symptoms and labeling the child and the symptoms. So, 3 overlooked but natural ways of you improving your child's behavior if you feel that your child is rude, if they're abrupt, if they don't listen, if they're annoyed and irritable, if they're angry all the time, if they're moody all the time. 3 of the things that you can look at are their nutrition, their sleep, and the amount of attention that they're getting. So, number 1, nutrition. It's always worth looking at your child's diet. Now, if your child goes to school, or if you've got an older child that eats out a lot, this is going to be a little bit more challenging. But for the most part, if you've got any control over what it is that your children eat, even if they're grown children but they mainly eat at home, you'll still be able to work out from what you know your child's eating. And obviously if they're younger and you see everything they're eating, or you're the one that's making it for them, this is going to be easy. But it's good to take stock. Is your child getting enough nutrients? Are the foods that you know your child's eating, or you're feeding them, or that you bring into the house for them to eat, are they nutrient-rich foods, or are they mainly processed foods? So are they whole foods? Are they unprocessed? Are they raw? Is it nuts and fruits and salads and whole grains if you eat whole grains? Is it, good quality fish? What is it that your child is mainly eating? Are they getting enough nutrients? So you see, if the child is not getting enough nutrients, and more importantly, if your child's not getting enough nutrients, but they're getting a lot of stimulants, those 2 things can have a big impact on your child's brain chemistry. So first thing in the morning, if they're just having cereal for breakfast, with cow's milk, and that cereal's got a lot of sugar on it, they're not really getting a lot of nutrients. And nutrients is what the child's brain needs to function. It's what's going to give them energy. It's what's going to help them grow and repair their body. If your child's not getting enough nutrients first thing in the morning, and they're getting stimulants, things that are stimulating and hyping their body up, like chemicals, like food colorings, like sugar, if they're getting that kind of a balance first thing in the morning, not enough nutrients and a lot of stimulants, and then when they go to school, they're bouncing around the playground, which that's normal for children to do, but when they're asked to sit down, they can't calm down. And when a teacher asks them a question, they have a glazed look on their face, because their body's trying to come down off the high from the sugar that they've been having, or the stimulants that they've been having, or their brain is simply trying to find the energy to think. They could be asked the same question several times, but they're not answering because their body just doesn't have enough energy to, or their brain is hyped up. And the same thing will happen when they're at home. When a child is bouncing around and fidgeting and grabbing things when they're in the supermarket, the best thing to do isn't to offer them, oh, okay, I'll get you a chocolate, or I'll get you this lolly if you calm down, because that's not going to happen. It's going to stimulate them. It's going to hype them up. It's going to crash their energy more by giving them those things. And oftentimes that's something that we do, that's what some parents do. They feel that misbehavior will be rectified by giving the child a so-called treat, but oftentimes those so-called treats are going to put the children in an even worse situation. And then all the while we're continuing to create this impression of our children that they are badly behaved, when in fact it's maybe that they're just not getting enough nutrients, they're not getting enough whole natural foods and they're getting too many stimulants. Now, if you do recognize that that could be the situation, that your child maybe isn't getting enough healthy whole foods and they maybe are getting too many stimulants, obviously one of the first things you can do is remove the amount of stimulants that you're giving your child and increase the amount of nutrients that they're getting. And that could even be in the form of giving your children supplements. And those supplements could literally be the elixirs and the liquids, things like Floridex. But they could also be in the form of superfoods. So you can make your children milkshakes and smoothies and then put things like hemp powder and, you know, the raw cacao and maca root and wheatgrass, barley grass, spirulina, babawa. You can put all these superfood nutrients into your child's food and smoothies, or you can just simply give your children you know, supplements, giving them Floridex on a regular basis to give them that kind of nutrient boost. Now, when children are getting enough nutrients, when you are giving them lots of healthy whole foods, and even if you're giving them supplements as well, another thing to check is that their body is able to absorb all this wonderful nutrients and food that they're getting, because if their digestion is not great, then they're not going to be able to absorb all the nutrients that you're giving them. So it's time to ask your children or monitor your children and see how many times they're passing a stool every day. They should at least be going once or twice a day. And their urine, is it coming out very, very dark yellow? Has it got a strong scent? Do they need to get more water into their body? All of these things are things that you can look at to see if simply them being malnourished, because even in our developed world, when we consume large quantities of food, that food may not actually be full of nutrients. We can still become malnourished even though our tummy is full. In this modern world, it's one of those things, it's called a first world issue that a lot of us have. So once the nutrition has been assessed, then look at their sleep pattern. If your child is still not behaving when you have made sure that they're getting adequate nutrition, look at their sleep. Are they getting enough sleep? Are they waking up looking still kind of sleepy and irritable? Not just for a few minutes, I mean just like extended for the first hour, that after they wake up they still look really tired. Because again, if your child is tired, if you're tired as an adult, you don't want to be told what to do. You don't want to get up. You don't want to move fast. You don't want to go and tidy your room, go and get dressed, go and brush your teeth. We need to get ready now. Have you got your homework? Have you got your PE kit? You're firing all these questions at a child first thing in the morning oftentimes. And if that child hasn't had adequate sleep, they may blow up. They may erupt. They may snap back at you simply because they're tired. In the same way, like I said, adults will snap if you're bombarding them with questions and they simply haven't had enough sleep. So if you can think that maybe your child not having enough sleep could be a consideration, then maybe look at making their bedtime slightly earlier. Maybe look at, is there any way that they can sleep slightly later in the morning? What's the quality of their sleep like? If they're getting enough time in the bed, are they sleeping all the way through the night? Is there something that you can do to help them sleep all the way through the night? So before they go to bed, could you put lavender in their bath? Could you give them a small amount of something like chamomile tea? Maybe a few drops of lemon essential oil on their pillow that will help them sleep through the night. And oftentimes we go to bed later than our children do. So, sometimes children in the middle of the night, they'll kick off their covers and they're sitting there shivering in their bed, cold. And then they'll jump out of the bed because they're cold and oftentimes find their way to their parents' bedroom and sleep right in the middle of us or push us to the sides of the bed. So is there something you can do before you go to bed to go check on them? Make sure that the covers are on them, make sure that they're warm enough, make sure that they're not too warm. Is the temperature in the room adequate? Is the bedding comfortable? Because we noticed with our children's beds a few years ago that the springs really protruded out of the mattress. So we always had to make sure that the children had like another duvet on top of their mattress just to make their mattress soft enough, and we'd flip the duvets regularly and things like that. And if you do notice that there is a problem with your child's bedding, that it's just not comfortable. And sometimes you can ask your child, like, is your bed comfortable to sleep in? Do you like sleeping in your bed? For younger children, are there dolls and toys and things you can put in their bed that would make their bed more appealing for them to stay in and make them want to, make it more comfortable for them to sleep in there? All of those things can be looked at to just make sure your child is getting enough sleep, and that sleep isn't the reason why your child simply isn't behaving. And the last thing is attention. Now, parents have busy lives regardless. It's just, it's difficult to not have a particularly busy life when you are a parent, especially if you're a parent and you work and you have all the responsibilities and things like this. However, if we don't create time, and this is something that a lot of, community experts are talking more about now, And it's the whole principle behind teaching our own. It's becoming more engaged in your children, learning more about your children, spending more time with your children. Because if your child is kicking off and you're, not behaving, and you have made sure they've got enough nutrition and they are getting adequate amounts of sleep, you do really need to make sure your child is getting, you are spending enough time with your child to observe them, to see how they react to things, to see the things they like and they don't like, to see what kicks them off when they do get upset, what happens normally, what's normally the situation that occurs before they kick off and get upset. What can you do to calm them down, apart from shouting at them and telling them that they're naughty or that they're silly or that they're badly behaved, or instead of just criticizing them, see what actually kicks them off, see what calms them down, and definitely spend time talking to them. Even if your child's done something so obnoxious you just can't even stand the sight of your child, at some point when you've calmed down, go and talk to them and ask them, why did you do that? It's difficult to not do it in a judgmental way, but as best you can, ask them the question in a way that they are comfortable to give you an answer as to why it is that they're doing these things. Because some children are experiencing challenges that we're only going to find out about when they're Facebook posting them or they're putting them on Twitter and Instagram when they're older. Oh yeah, I used to hate it when my mum used to do this, because I hated it when I would always get in trouble at school for not listening, but I was listening, I just couldn't do the work because I couldn't see the board. So you can find out about these things now before it gets too late, before your child has to work with these challenges on their own for too long. You can be helping your child and finding these things out with your child so that you can support your child. So if your child is having difficulties with understanding what's happening at school, or they are tired, or they are hungry, or they are just going through emotions and feelings that they can't even understand and it's just coming out in different ways, you can work with your children and protect your children and support your children and be on your children's side, and understand your children so that you can help them best. Because very often the labels stick. The labels stick so firmly that the child, whether they're correct or not, the child will begin to believe that about themselves, that they are naughty children, they are misbehaved, they are bad breed children, whatever the expression is that they've been labeled with. They are ADHD, they are all these things, when in actuality sometimes they're just children that need more food or more sleep or more attention. And those three simple things can mean the world and can make such a difference in a child's life. And then that can also change the trajectory of the child's life moving forward. So instead of them living their lives out as that bad misbehaved child, they become the child who's overstood, and they're supported, and they are able to become to live a life for that child which is natural to them. They are able to become nourished and fulfilled on every level because they were given that support initially. And that will also make your job as a parent easier, because instead of thinking, I just have a bad child, I don't know what to do with my child who doesn't behave, my child doesn't behave and it stresses me out, you'll know, okay, I don't have a badly behaved child. I have a child who just needs more food. I have a child who I know if they don't get fed enough first thing in the morning, they are going to be ratty. I have a child who, if they do have too much screen time in the evening, they aren't going to get an uninterrupted night's sleep, and in the morning we're all going to suffer. I do have a child that if I don't spend enough time with that child, I'm not going to know really what's going on. But when I do spend time with the child, the more time I spend with them, the more easily they find it to open up to me, so that when they are going through challenges, I am the first person that they come and speak to. And so not is it going to help them, but it's also going to help you. And these are natural, they're not medicated ways to manage your child's behavior. They are a way of bonding and strengthening the link that is very much lost between a lot of parents and children these days. And again, like I said, there's a lot of people in the community who are working to bridge that gap. And this is one of the ways that we can do it on a natural level. So I hope you found this video useful and these tips helpful. If you've got some suggestions, if you've got some advice for parents who feel that they just have bad children or misbehaved children, then please post it in the comments below. You can find me over at thenaturallyyoucoach.com. Be sure to sign up to the newsletter to get yourself a free recipe book and to find out when I'm at events or got new books or products launched. I look forward to hearing from you all again soon. Take care and stay healthy.